All right, welcome everybody to eTalks. Welcome to the 11th episode of eTalks. Today we have a very special guest and a wonderful moderator. Today we're going to talk about artificial intelligence and its impact on society as well as the ethical considerations in AI development. My name is Zainab Boselik and I will be your host today. And our speaker today is Ahmed Reza, who's a serial entrepreneur with a background in AI and software engineering and a childhood background in the performing arts. He had a brief career as an actor and recording artist as a child before immigrating to the US, which is wonderful. Mr. Reza started his engineering career building image processing software for NASA's Spitzer Space Technology while at Cornell University, where he had major in comp sci and electrical engineering. In college, Mr. Reza also participated in the DARPA Grand Challenge, which resulted in the world's first driving cars. So welcome, Mr. Reza, and let me introduce our wonderful moderator. Bushra Khan is a 17-year-old junior in high school who plays in the varsity ice hockey team, and she's also in the science team and a lieutenant in JROTC. She plays the violin. She loves abstract art. She loves doing research, installations, and just weird art in general. And let me give the floor to you two, and I'm so excited about what you guys will talk about. So welcome, Bushra, and welcome, Mr. Reza.
Hello, as your moderator for tonight, I'm really excited about today's topic on the impact of AI on society and its ethical concerns. I mean, it is so limit. Just recently, I did a study on why people are afraid of AI on my stats class, because these fears can have significant implications for the development and deployment of AI. I believe that it is important that we address that so that we can take steps to improve AI systems. Also, going on the impact of AI from automation, personalization, and healthcare, and its concerns on bias, privacy, and job displacements. As someone who has diverse experience in various industries such as aerospace, healthcare, and software engineering, what common ethical challenges have you observed when implementing AI technologies, and how do you address them?
First of all, thank you so much for having me, Zainab and Bushra. It's amazing to be here, and I feel really energized to be on your show. And thank you for the very kind words. It's always like a little bit odd to hear myself referred to as Mr. Reza. You can call me Ahmed if you want. So my background experience, it seems really deep, but that just means that I'm really old. I'm amazed by the young people and the cool things that you're doing right now. Just thinking about my earliest, actually my first job in New York. One of my earliest jobs in New York was being an editor, first being an assistant and then being an editor at Shamol Bangla Television, which so now that you guys are streaming, I see you guys like working together, right? I was doing this, but we use this editing system called the Toaster. Um, yeah, it's like tape and everything. So the fact that we're going live to so many people on YouTube, this is actually a technical miracle that's happening right before our eyes. So just sorry, didn't mean to ignore your question. Just like having a diverse background has actually been an incredible blessing for me. When I first started, the world looked very different, and I think at the core of it, it's that I'm very curious about things, right? I didn't know that AI was going to become really big. I just wanted to understand how computers worked, right? Yeah, till this day, I'm fascinated by computers. I'm fascinated by electronics. And I got into the Spitzer Space Telescope. Like that was my first really cool job. And you'd have to like pry me away from the job because there was so much to learn. And I think getting into AI, even like my very first job, like just digging into it, understanding it, and separating like fact from fiction is really important. Because once you start engineering it, when you first are on a call like this, streaming like this, or experiencing technology, it can seem magical. But when you get into it and you actually see the electrons moving from here to here, and this is what's making these moving pictures appear, right? That is like a whole nother level of wow. And I think my career can be kind of summed up as like, I'm still going like, wow, this is so amazing. I can't believe these little electrons moving from here to here, making all of this happen.
Yes, exactly. And as the founder and CEO of Yobi, a communication app that integrates all these um, multiple channels into one platform, how do you envision AI shaping the future of business, specifically with communication and customer interactions?
So part of being a geek is kind of living in the future. So I don't know if you're a fan of Star Trek, but I know Star Trek's had a little reboot. But for me, at least in my formative years, like watching Star Trek, watching Commander Data, and if you haven't watched the latest episodes of Picard yet, I don't want to give away who Commander Data is, but you'll see like they're in the starship and they're just saying, computer, do this, and the computer just does it, right? And at the time, it's just science fiction. But one of the things that I think we always kind of strive for is to make that reality, right? Like, what if I could really make this happen? Back in the late 90s, there was this Motorola cell phone, we'll call a StarTAC, and it would flip open just like a tricorder on Star Trek. So today I see AI and I actually think about Star Trek and how, you can call Siri or Alexa. A lot of it is actually inspired by that. So if you think about the future of communications, it's like you got to live in the future a little bit. You got to understand that it's no longer telephones, right? For me, specifically, it was like business communications, understanding that. And then also realizing, what you don't ever see on Star Trek is, Captain Kirk going, hang on a second, right? Like if Captain Kirk did that, that just would not be a fun show to watch, right? You notice that they were present and that the computer is definitely there. And the computer is always there, but it's never like in the way. If I did this, like that's very annoying, right? So this is kind of transitionary technology. Like this is technology that gets us to a point where we can look each other, in the eyes and we can connect as human beings and live in a world that's augmented, where the computing kind of disappears in the background. And that to me is like the promise of AI. So if I said, hey, computer, what am I forgetting, right? And it says, oh, you forgot to talk to your mom. She would love to watch this. I think my mom might be watching this. I just sent her a link, right? So that I could be more present and my AI can handle a lot of that. So one of the things that the AI should be handling, in my opinion, is a lot of communication, a lot of like little things like scheduling. So for example, I would love to be on shows like this. And I know you guys talk to my team, but one of the things you might not be aware of is that I have an AI synthetic clone of me. So you can talk, and we use these synthetic clones to communicate on my behalf. So I actually end up spending a lot less time doing appointment setting and a lot more time where I'm able to be present. So even on social media, you'll notice that I'm very, very responsive. Part of the reason is because, my AI clone, which is trained on my voice, it knows what to say. Like a small talk, if somebody says hello, how do you respond? Hello, Bushra.
Hello.
Right. Say, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, right? And it doesn't take a lot to actually mimic that conversation. And just these little pleasantries often is how we establish relationships with one another. So if you think deeply about how do people communicate and what is the communication that you want more of in your life, I'm pretty sure if I told you that you didn't have to be on hold with a travel agent, or you didn't have to spend any time on hold waiting for stuff, right? But you got to have a lot more meaningful conversations with friends and people that you're really interested in connecting with, like you'd love to do that. So that's what my digital clone does. And I'll introduce you to my synth here in a sec. Let me know if you can hear him. I got to turn the volume up so you can hear him.
Hi, I'm Ahmed Yobi, a synthetic agent trained on his personal data and communications. It's nice to meet you all. I'll handle the notifications and communications so he can focus on this presentation.
I definitely do, but that's great. Yeah.
So it sounds similar enough to me, and it's able to carry on conversations so that I genuinely would love to connect with more people and do more things. And this I believe is the future of communications, where your agent and my agent could talk to each other. Right? It sounds very Hollywood, right? Have your people talk to my people. It's like have your Yobis talk to my Yobi, and we'll figure it out. Well, how cool is it if you just connected with more amazing people and got to spend your time more focused? So, like, I have notifications turned off on my phone. And the reason I can do that is because I don't have to attend to it. My synthetic agent attends to it. And when there's big things that I have to attend to, it creates tasks for me.
Yes, that's great. And especially with how AI helps us and with how it promises to help us in like the automation field, with your background and especially like hacking CryEngine units, ECUs to improve performance, considering the potential ethical concerns surrounding unauthorized access and modifications, how do you navigate that?
Oh boy, you've definitely done your homework. So one of the startups that I worked at that was just an incredible amount of fun was Superchips, where we literally reverse engineered ECUs to figure out how to make cars go faster. Um, so technically, are you supposed to do that? No, but at the same time, like the hacker spirit is a really powerful one. If you were there back in the early 90s or mid 90s, late 90s, the open source hacker is actually an honorific term among geeks. When you say, oh, so and so is a hacker, right? And it was another way of keeping people who didn't understand that it was an honorific term like out. So if somebody was like, hacker, what? Do you steal credit cards in a hoodie? And it's like, no, that's not what it means, right? Like that's the news. But between programmers, it's like you're so smart, you really know how the computer works. So you know its vulnerabilities, you know its shortcomings. Like you are a guru, right? And not everybody really knew how to do that. As a matter of fact, the popular site Stack Overflow,
I
that's a
mean,
hacker. Yeah, that's a hacker term. So one of the things you could do in C++ or in the early days is you could do these little attacks where you make the Stack Overflow, and then you get access to stuff you're not supposed to get access to. So with respect to that, right, there's the curious culture, there's a rebel culture, which I think is really awesome. But the ethics and morality behind it is really important. What do you do with that, right? Are you doing something for fun versus doing something where you are stealing grandma's credit card? That's not cool, right? That's not a hacker, that's just a thief, right? And you can do both of those with a computer, right? You can do things that are good. You can figure out new ways of doing things and have that rebel spirit, which is like a very American thing, right? And which now is which is everywhere, I think, right? But the world has realized that that rebel spirit is worth nurturing.
yeah, and go
And
rock culture and Delaware and even like identifying yourself as an AI geek
right.
about that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just admiring how the rebel culture affectionately actually even like goes on to STEM and AI. And especially with like all the communication tools now that like Chubb, especially like Chubb Hub, it has like created a community for tech geeks and entrepreneurs. And Yobi.app operates in Silicon Valley like a hub for technological innovation and geeks. In our experience, like Hub has fostering collaboration and providing support apps and actually like doing a community, like calling yourself geek. How does it lead to discussions on AI?
So I think that's something that I thought about a while back, as to like what is it that I really believe in, and beyond just making money. Like yes, people have careers, you'll make money, you have to pay bills, right? Hopefully you don't have to pay too many bills at this age, but soon you'll have to pay bills. Uh, but beyond that, there's more to life than just paying bills. It's like, what is it that you believe in? What are the things that you want to see different in the world? What are the things that you'd like to fix? And that spirit, that builder spirit, that hacker spirit, right? That's something that's important to nurture. And I think a lot of us geeks, or people who would like call you like, oh my God, this guy's such a geek. He's just like trying to build Star Trek. What's wrong with you, right? There's a lot of us. And I realized that a lot of us went into engineering jobs. And even after work, we just wanted to work some more because we really love building stuff. I can't help it. Like if I retired, I would keep working. I would keep building stuff. So with TrepHub, that's what I realized is, what do I believe in? I believe in the power of geeks. I believe in the power that these builders and creators bring to the table. And with the creator economy, you're seeing a different version of that, right? People that just want to build, create, express themselves, and contribute something to the world. So without really too much design, just getting these smart people together, I thought would make a huge difference to the local community and beyond. And with TrepHub, it was incredible how it came together. We used to call it Fight Club for Hackers. And then like nobody would let us meet because we called it Coders, Hackers, Founders, right? And nobody would let us meet. Like even the restaurants were like, no, we don't want you guys here. It's like, why? You guys are hackers. I'm like, no, we're not that kind of hackers. You know, we just like hack stuff together. So we ended up getting an office space between a few of us. We just paid for it. We chipped in on the rent. And initially it was 5 people that got together to like just build stuff in the evenings and weekends. And in less than like 6 months, it was over 1,000 people. And we had actually started building startups. And that's what happens with community. That's what happens when you get together in a spirit of collaboration, in a spirit of like, hey, let's see what we can solve. Let's see what we can build. And some of the things that I'm most proud of about TrepHub is actually not engineering related. The things that I'm most proud of is this nonprofit that came out of it called SteadyTown. SteadyTown was started by somebody who started a different company called SpringSource, which is very famous among programmers, right? Java, Spring, and the modern enterprise technology that you use on a day-to-day basis is built on Spring. But then Keith Donald, he decided to start this thing called SteadyTown, which would rehouse homeless people. And he took up very much like after being a founder, after being a geek who's really good at problem solving, he segmented the homeless population to folks who were homeless because of economic issues, because they were falling through the cracks. And he started working on it one at a time. And I think to date, they've helped rehouse over 1,000 families, which is just so insanely cool, right? Is that if you can focus your energies on real world problems and start building solutions, like what better way can you live, right? And I'm so happy that TrepHub produces things like that. Yes, it produced startups, yes, it produced multi-million dollar startups, but more than that, it's producing real solutions for society.
Yeah, I feel like producing real solutions is also part of being an entrepreneur and going into your background in that, especially in residence at CRI International, you explored the intersection of AI, voice, and image recognition. Could you share any insights on the ethical considerations and challenges on the field of voice and image recognition?
Oh boy, that's a really hard question and a deep question because obviously, I don't know if you've seen my social media feed, but I recently put out a podcast, which obviously sounds like me, but it is fully AI generated. And you can generate these things. In our case, it was authorized by me. Not only was it authorized, it was based on my previous works. So it was derivative, but it was still something that I would say, right? And I've taken a lot of time training my synthetic agent. Now, somebody could take my voice, clone it, and use it for nefarious purposes, or just use it for things that are just plain unethical. They're not illegal, mainly because laws don't exist for things like this, right? So technically, if I really wanted to, if I thought, hey, Bushra, I really want to look like you right now, there's things that I could do. I would suddenly start to look like you and sound like you. But that would probably not be cool. That would be the last time I get invited to this show, right? So I think the nice part of actually being human is you kind of know what's wrong. You know that something is wrong to do, right? And you don't need it to be illegal for it to be unethical. And that's one of the things I lean into when I talk to fellow leaders in AI is the thing that saves us from the threat of technology is actually the goodness in people. Like being a hacker and a geek, I know that there are lots of weaknesses. The internet was not built with security in mind. So a lot of the hacks, a lot of the exploits, a lot of the things that you hear of is because the internet was originally designed as a research tool, which kind of grew its own legs and became this thing. And it is that most people who are programmers and engineers who even know the vulnerabilities know that it is unethical to exploit those vulnerabilities, and they don't make a living out of doing that. Yes, it's illegal, and some people do it. A small part of the population still, they don't have that ethical boundary. With I think it's very similar. You are going to need regulations, like the government and everybody else has to understand what is now possible. Disinformation campaigns can happen. But honestly, the thing that's always saved humanity, in my humble opinion, is that we rely on the goodness of people. We do rely on people having ethics kind of built in. I think during the Cold War, there could have been nuclear war. And it is thanks to a valiant, military person in a submarine who decided to not fire a nuclear missile, which could have ended humanity. Why? Because this person thought about it and said the implications of this are huge. Is it legal, illegal? Am I right? So at the end of the day, having the right humans in the loop, having good human beings, and I think as you're growing up, as you're going into careers, I think personally the most important thing to do is make sure we nurture that humanity within us and within the next generation, so that whatever tools you have at your disposal, know that there are certain things that are wrong to do. Like, you do not want to live like that, right? There's like almost no benefit that justifies that, right? So yes, there's ethical concerns. There's serious ethical concerns when I can suddenly look like you, I can look like anybody I want, right? It's creative, it's cool, it's like, as a hacker, it's really exciting, but at the same time, there's ethical boundaries which I'm kind of banking on right now, because there's no government that can move fast enough to, like, you can come and say, oh, there is no more AI, ban AI development, but realistically you can't do that, right? It's like saying, hey, we all agree to not do bad things with nuclear weapons. Well, nuclear weapons exist, right? So yes, you want to regulate them, but you also want to rely on people not being so short-sighted as to be like, oh, look, it's a bargaining chip. No. And another place that you can point to in the past is like physics, chemistry. These are very powerful things, right? Nuclear weapons came from physics, right? So if you go to your average physicist and ask them, hey, do you want to work on nuclear weapons? They'll probably say no, right? Because those smart people also come paired with humanity, which is very important, and not something that we should just, say, oh, that's just a peripheral. That's not peripheral. Your humanity is core to who you are, especially in the age of AI. If you were a chemical engineer, like, chemical weapons, not a good idea. You will not find most chemists wanting to make chemical weapons. They're horrible things. Do they exist? Yes. Did some people build them? Yes. But do all people build them? No. Right. And that's why is that? Because do you want to be the chemist that goes and builds chemical weapons? Like, right? You are no longer like, you might do that for a defense department or whatever, but there's a lot of ethical implications that come along with it, how you're viewed in society and all of that. So I think with any technology, like even people who go to DEF CON, who are hackers, who are openly hackers, and they're like, hey, what do they call themselves? They're security researchers. Why? Being a security researcher, knowing how to hack and doing all the stuff and finding cool new vulnerabilities, that's cool. Stealing grandma's credit card, not cool. Right? And that's true for AI as well, right? Expressing creativity through it, that's pretty cool, right? Thinking about the world in a different way is pretty cool, but there's other things that you definitely shouldn't do. And I think sooner or later, for me, right now, the governments are moving pretty fast. They didn't move very fast during social media. We didn't understand it, right? But now that we understand social media, this is a really interesting time, because governments are taking this very seriously and making sure they pass regulations, that there's guardrails around this. This is very, very new, right? Our previous laws were not designed around this kind of technology in mind.
Yes, going on with that and ethical dilemmas and those, what would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs then going into AI? Like, how do you keep yourself in check with ethical boundaries?
I think when you become an entrepreneur, like, of course, entrepreneurs make money, right? That's what you see. But I know a lot of entrepreneurs. I think most entrepreneurs are just builders. They're builders that want to build and deliver things, right? They just want to do things in a different way than just build it for the sake of building it, right? So Steve Jobs wanted to change the world. Bill Gates wanted to put a computer on every desk, right? It's because of these folks that we have computers, that we have, we're talking right now. It's your iPhone's changed many things, right? So I think entrepreneurs, when they go into becoming an entrepreneur, they want to make a dent in the world. They don't want to destroy it. I think that's my recommendation. Is if you're trying to make a dent in the world, like, just be a little bit more thoughtful. Be more thoughtful about, hey, what is this thing that I'm doing? Am I doing it being short-term focused, where I'm just like, oh, I'm getting ahead. That's it. That's all that matters, right? Who's your client? Oh, here's this political party that wants me to put out fake stuff. It's okay, I'll do it. We get money. I don't know. Are you going to be happy with yourself in 5 years after doing that? Right? And if enough, and somebody can say, oh, well, somebody else will do it. Well, it doesn't mean that you have to. I'm sure somebody's going to steal grandma's credit card, but you don't have to. Like, don't do it.
Yeah, totally understand. So could you share any examples or like anecdotal stories from your journey that highlights the importance of considering ethical concerns?
Oh boy, I think it's all the time, honestly. Like, it's how do you define success in your life? Like, for me, I start with that. Success, as is often defined on Instagram, is like spinning shiny rims on a Rolls Royce. And I'll tell you what, it is not. Having owned a Rolls Royce, it is not success. Like, true success is in being content with yourself, right? As an entrepreneur, as a computer geek, I'm just so happy that I get to do what I get to do every day. And I think if you meet the best entrepreneurs, you're going to see that they're very happy doing what they get to do every day. And I've seen very few of those people who would be happy sacrificing their values. And like, people do that. People do. People do sacrifice their values sometimes to get ahead, but that's usually because of a misperception of what success is. You won't be able to live with yourself. You are going to regret sacrificing your values, sacrificing who you want to be, who you aspire to be. Sometimes you make mistakes, like, ask for forgiveness, make reparations, and move forward. But ultimately, having that compass inside of you, just knowing that these are the right things to do, this is what I want to accomplish ultimately, and I'm not going to sacrifice my values, I'm not going to sacrifice who I am just to get some sort of output. Because the truth is, the ends do not justify the means. To the world, you might say that. You can argue that to everybody. But if you have a conscience, you will not be good with yourself. And trust me, I've seen people who are good with themselves. They're like in the very Zen place. They're usually very thankful, they have friends, and oftentimes people who appreciate them. At least fame changes that. When you become very famous, that's hard to make friends and stuff. But even those people who are very famous, they have friends who are not friends with them just because they're famous and rich. But and then there's people who are not necessarily famous or rich, but they've sacrificed their own ethics, sacrificed their values. And I've noticed that they're drowning themselves in, escapes and things like that. And you can just look at that, judge for yourself, and say, is that really something that you want in your life? And I personally don't.
Yes, I definitely agree and love the points you just made. But sadly, nearing the end of our talk show, I would like to ask you talk special questions that we ask to each of our guests that may be wholesome, most extravagant, impact for the betterment of this world. What is your favorite color, and what are your favorite books and movies?
My favorite color is red. Yobi's original logo was red. and then a designer came to me and said, that's a horrible color. We're going to be purple. I said, okay.
But it's so bold,
Yeah. What was the second question? Sorry, books?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I actually have a whole bunch of book reviews on YouTube. So feel free to watch some of those. But my top books, if you're interested in AI, Super Intelligence is a really good book. Max Tegmark's Life 3.0 is a really good book. And honestly, I'll recommend one outside of AI, outside of any of this stuff, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Don't judge the book by its title. The book is actually incredibly insightful and incredibly helpful. And just like, if you're a good person, you end up attracting good people around you. If you treat people kindly, it's really basic stuff, but the way Dale Carnegie communicates it is quite extraordinary. And like, I think of almost 100 years later, it's still very, very relevant.
And the last one was, what are your favorite movies?
My favorite movies. Oh boy. Um, AI movies, of course. One of my new, I don't know if it's a favorite. One of my new favorites is Ex Machina, because it explores AI. There's nothing that really explores the kind of vision of AI. I guess Star Trek. It's not really a movie, but Star Trek to me. And the other favorite movie is the one with the blue people. Oh my God, I can't remember the name. Avatar.
What?
Avatar. And that's just one of my favorites because it's visually so stimulating and appealing. And one of the coolest promises of AI is we may actually get to experience Avatar-like realities. So no spoilers, but I hear Apple has some big announcements. So maybe we'll get to experience the world of Avatar ourselves.
Hopefully. And lastly, with your performance background, performance arts, what are your thoughts on art?
Oh boy. Art, it's really weird to be like someone who's an artist who's also a computer scientist, because normally people think those things are very diametrically opposed. Um, but really, I think life is about beauty. Life is about appreciating the subtleties of things, right? If you look at, I was very fortunate to meet an incredible artist, one of probably the greatest in my lifetime, SM Sultan from Bangladesh. And there was something, he was this cool old dude when I met him, and he was like, shadows aren't black. It's like, really? Shadows aren't black? But then I realized it takes a great deal of reflection and like deep observation to be a really good artist. And I think with AI art that's about to come out, I think that's just us expressing ourselves creatively, right? Like a picture is worth 1,000 words. Like, I don't know what a movie is worth, but it's really cool to be able to express something that I imagined in my head to somebody else and share that moment together, right?
And you mentioned that tech and art is seen as diametrically opposed. Would you argue with that?
I think it's a false dichotomy because we're human beings, and it's like saying there's a logical brain and an illogical brain. I think we're a mix of both, which is what makes us special, and which also highlights the very core difference between us and, say, artificial intelligence. We have these chemicals that mess with us all the time. You give me a lot of coffee, I will act differently. I mean, you throw a lot of coffee over some GPUs, you're going to destroy the GPUs permanently, but it will not act differently. So we are these like ephemeral electrochemical beings, whereas artificial intelligence is actually a lot more rational and predictable, relatively speaking. We may not be able to explain what the AI is doing because it's all in binary, but it is more rational and predictable. And so to me, art and science aren't necessarily separate. It hasn't always been separate. And I think with a world where AI does a lot more heavy lifting, I would expect more people to be like the Renaissance folks, right? Who weren't just, oh, I'm just a scientist or I'm just this. I think we're going to be more generalists. The world will favor more generalists.
Yes, and mentioning how you think AI is more concrete maybe than art, it's maybe predictable. Would you say that smart AI or like general AI would be maybe less predictable and more relatable to art?
I mean, art is art and creativity are, philosophical subjects almost, right? Yeah, like is our creativity really creative? Is it really original, or is it derivative, right? And one might argue that it is derivative, that the things that I paint are based on my experiences, the countries that I went to, or wherever I grew up, right? Input that I saw, and that the AI is theoretically doing something very similar. It's learn and it's outputting, right? Um, but again, I think there is something that's different, that even like the top AI researchers will tell you, like there is something that's different between humans and AI. Speaking of like AGI, there's a lot of talk around it. A lot of it is like theoretical and philosophical. I'm of the opinion that the AI is already smarter than us. It's been smarter than us, right? It's superhuman, but that's okay. There's lots of like lions are stronger than us, but being human is still somehow special, right? I have a lot of flaws. My AI synthetic clone, my synthetic agent is a lot better at doing certain things, at doing many things, but I'm still the person that my friends somehow still want to hang out with, that people want to talk to. This person that gets sleepy and tired and needs to eat, and is defective. And if you really think deeply, you realize that that's probably one of the things that you appreciate among the people, among your loved ones, among your friends, is you'll see that they're not perfect, but you see the beauty in that. You see how cool that is, that they have this little quirk, or they snort when they laugh or something, right? And you wouldn't trade that for the world, even if they'd look at it and go, oh, that's so imperfect. I'm so embarrassed by snorting when I laugh.
Yes, I definitely think that it's the reliability or relatability of it that really catches us. And thank you so much for coming, Mr. Ahmed Reza. I love this conversation and would want to have it again. But floor is yours, Zainab.
All right. It was a wonderful conversation. I loved everything that you have said. I love how Bushra moderated it. So again, thank you so much, Mr. Reza, for joining us tonight. I think starting with me, we learned quite a lot regarding ethics, regarding many different points actually that can be very inspiring to our young audience who would like to be entrepreneurs someday, or who are just interested in AI and in computers. So thank you so much, Mr. Reza, for speaking with us today. Thank you so much, Bushra, for moderating the talk. And thank you to all of our audiences for joining us and tuning in tonight. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on our Instagram. And see you next week in next week's eTalks. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.